In Uruguay, the Broad Front coalition candidate leads voting intentions with more than 48%. The Palestinian government and resistance warned that the minister Smotrich plans to impose Israeli sovereignty over the West Bank, ratifies the intention of the colonial plan. And in Spain, weather authorities warned of a new Dana, putting 8 communities on high alert. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from TeleSUR Studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. 12 days before Uruguay's presidential runoff, the candidate of the leftist coalition Broad Front leads voting intention with more than 48%. According to data based on a new poll, Broad Front candidate Yamandu Orsi could obtain 48.5% of the votes, while the right-wing candidate Álvaro Delgado would reach 45.1%. According to the data, Orsi manages to gather support among voters of the ruling parties and from outside the two blocs, while Delgado does not gain the loyalty of all the voters of the Republican coalition. The survey maintains Orsi as favorite to win the second round, although now the distance between the candidates is smaller than the one registered before the October elections. In Lima, Peru, more than 13,000 police officers are being prepared for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit. The Peruvian government plans to guarantee the security of the summit, which is taking place this week in Lima. The presidents of the United States, Joe Biden, and China, Xi Jinping, are heading the meeting of the forum, which brings together the leaders of 21 economies that represent 60% of the global GDP. The Interior Ministry reported that the security arrangements include facial recognition equipment, anti-drone systems, and a bomb disposal robot. Prior to the police deployment, the Congress authorized the entry of 600 soldiers from the United States to support the government in security tasks. In Ecuador, authorities registered 15 dead and 14 injured during riots and clashes in Guayaquil prison, the country's largest. Citizens report that from the littoral penitentiary, detonations were recorded since 3 a.m. local time. The National Service of Integral Attention to Adults Deprived of Liberty and Juvenile Offenders said that security forces acted immediately to take full control of the facilities and activate a large-scale search operation. In addition to initiating the corresponding investigation to clarify what happened, authorities added that a contingent of military and police personnel was deployed to guarantee security and avoid further incidents. The president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, ratified the investigations of the prosecutor's office, confirmed that there are no children detained in the country, nor political prisoners for the violent actions of the Venezuelan far-right wing after the presidential July 28th elections. The head of state announced that everything is part of an international campaign that intends to create the narrative that the Venezuelan state violates human rights. Let's see the coverage of Madeleine Garcia.
Here you can see the 28 files with the full names and faces of the fatal victims killed by the armed criminal groups who were active after the presidential July 28 elections. Most of them had been killed in Caracas, the capital city, and in 8 other states of the country. One by one they were shown by the Venezuelan prosecutor's office. 4 cases had been identified as hate crimes. The victims were 2 National Guards and 2 women community leaders on account of they were Chavistas. On July 29 and 30, Venezuela experienced outbursts of violence that the Venezuelan far-right tried to sell as spontaneous protests for the alleged electoral fraud.
Those violent terrorists hired by them, drugged by them, now they say they are political prisoners. They want to say that these people are politicians, but actually they committed arson, homicide, as they burned, they killed, they shot, they stabbed, they threatened people's lives on social media. They went on saying they are politicians who are imprisoned for being politicians, and they used some money from abroad to try to set up a campaign for Christmas in December.
The target was to generate a civil war that would unleash a coup d'etat. The far-right wing, led by Maria Corina Machado, recruited and paid criminals for these terrorist actions.
Now, they want to wash the face of the murderer, of the criminal Machado, who is a criminal, who at this time is conspiring. She left the country to conspire. She left the country to look for dollars in Colombia. From drug trafficking, Machado was in Colombia, and drug trafficking is financing her now, without hiding out, and she is moving around there, to see if she can send terrorists, to place a bomb over there, one over there, one over here, in a crazy idea, of an excessive lustful ambition. She and that group of fascists have an excessive lustful ambition for power, so there has to be law, there has to be justice, there has to be state, there has to be order. The people want it, the people support it, and they are not going to make my pulse tremble, because I cannot be bribed. There is going to be justice, timely and severe justice.
Nearly 2,000 people had been arrested, including teenagers who committed alleged crimes, but the international campaign aims at pointing out they are children.
There is no child in detention, excuse me, no child in detention. Children in detention are in Israel, Palestinian children of 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old. Stop lying. In Venezuela, unlike in first world countries where a child can go to prison and be sentenced, in Venezuela this does not happen. In Venezuela the law establishes that a citizen can go to prison as of 14 years old, that is to say, when they are teenagers.
The Venezuelan head of state asked the prosecutor's office and judges to review and rectify if there is any detainee not linked to the operation designed by the CIA, according to testimonies of foreign mercenaries captured, which far-right plan had been neutralized in 48 hours after the rapid action of the security forces.
And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back, stay with us. Welcome back. The Palestinian government condemned on Tuesday statements made by Israeli officials seeking to impose their plan and sovereignty over the West Bank. The Palestinian Foreign Ministry labeled these statements as colonialist and racist, as they constitute an extension of the genocidal war of displacement against the Palestinian people. The Foreign Ministry further denounced such statements as a persistent disregard for international legitimacy, United Nations resolutions, and the international consensus reached on the two-state solution. For his part, the Israeli Minister of Finance, Bezalel Smotrich, said that Israel will forever take from the Palestinians the territories occupied by Jewish settlements in the West Bank. In Palestine, at least 10 people were killed by an Israeli occupation army bombardment on a humanitarian zone in the Gaza Strip. The new attack took place on the night of November 11th, when drones launched missiles at people sitting in a field cafe located in Al-Mawasi, an area in southern Gaza designated as safe by Israeli forces. Paramedics and civilians transferred several wounded to Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis. On the other hand, Wafa news agency reported that amid heavy shelling, Israeli forces on Tuesday surrounded a school that houses 130 displaced families in the town of Beit Hanon. Since last October 7, 2023, 43,603 people have been killed as a result of Israel's genocidal offensive against the Gaza Strip. In Lebanon, a new attack by the Israeli occupation army resulted in the death of at least 14 people in the Ankar region in the north of the country. The authorities reported that the targets of the attacks were homes in the town of Ain Jacob, 12 kilometers from the Syrian border, which is also an area where Israeli attacks are rare. Syrians and displaced Lebanese residents are reported to be among the dead and wounded, while rescue teams continue to search for people trapped under the rubble. The Lebanese Ministry of Public Health said 54 people have died in the last 24 hours, bringing the death toll to 3,243 since October 2023, including 201 children.
It's a miserable situation. People are stupefied as it's the first strike on the Akkar region. They targeted the building without any prior notice. Usually they publish on social media evacuation orders. Unfortunately today they hit a building inhabited by more than 30 people, without evacuation order. It's a massacre.
Russia, Turkey and Iran denounced the detrimental impact of the constant Israeli attacks in the Middle East within the framework of the 22nd Astana meeting on a peaceful solution in Syria. The three countries in a joint statement assured that the Israeli actions violate international law, the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Syria, and called for an end to the aggressions against the territory. Moscow, Ankara and Tehran also condemned Tel Aviv's warlike actions in Lebanon, Palestine and the West Bank, and urged the international community and the United Nations Security Council to guarantee a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip and free humanitarian access to the Palestinian enclave. The Russian army neutralized at least 2,000 Ukrainian fighters and mercenaries within the framework of the special military operation to denazify Ukraine. The Russian Defense Ministry reported that troops advanced on several fronts, liberating airfields and taking control of Ukrainian military and industrial power plants. In last day's offensive, Russian units inflicted damage to Ukrainian troops and groups of servicemen who occupied the Russian territory of Donetsk. Russian troops also neutralized multiple warehouses where the Ukrainian forces were storing military arsenals and ammunition. The Kremlin highlighted the precision levels of the operation in leaving considerable casualties to the Kyiv regime, with no reported civilian casualties or damage to essential infrastructure or housing. The government of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea ratified the Strategic Partnership Treaty with Russia. In a statement released by local media, it was noted that the Strategic Partnership Treaty with Russia was signed on November 11, 2024, by decree of the President for State Affairs of the People's Republic in Pyongyang on June 19, 2024. In this regard, the treaty contains provisions on mutual defense in case of armed attacks by one or several states. The two countries also signed agreements related to the health sector. China showcases its military air power during the 15th International Aviation and Space Exhibition. The event takes place in Zhuhai, Guangdong Province. China aims to showcase its technological breakthroughs in the sector. The air show takes place one day after the 75th anniversary of the People's Liberation Army Air Force. This is the first time it will be held after the restrictions due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Throughout the six-day exhibition, the most advanced military aircraft and defense systems, including the new J-305A stealth fighter, will be on display.
This year's air show is probably the most grand one since the pandemic. The entire flight performance, especially the J-10C's performance, is much more complex in terms of aerobatics than before.
I had only seen this on live stream before, and this is my first time watching it in person. The impact of watching it on the scene is totally different from watching it on TV or in short videos. I deeply felt the strength of our country, very impressed.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at TeleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In Spain, the state meteorological agency AEMET warned of the entry of a new isolated depression at high levels, mainly on the east and south coast of the country. The weather entity issued a warning of persistent torrential rains in some areas of Valencia, Baleares and Catalonia starting on Tuesday. In addition, it reported flash floods in Andalusia. 8 communities have kept on alert for the new storm, while authorities recommended citizens to check road access before driving, since some regions are closed as a preventive measure. In this regard, military troops have been deployed in Valencia alongside the Navy crew of the Galicia ship to continue rescuing, cleaning up and making recovery efforts in the already affected areas. Amid alerts, the Directorate General of Civil Protection and Emergencies, DGPCE, activated a special emergency plan in the cities of Barcelona and Tarragona due to the heavy rains, which could reach up to 40 liters in 30 minutes. Meanwhile, the emergency service of the General Council of Catalonia urges to take necessary precautions. For its part, the City Council of Xiva in Valencia issued a notice of suspension of classes and sports activities until further notice due to the rain alert. The measure also includes the suspension of all activities in social centers, and citizens are advised not to move from the shelter areas. The municipality of Xiva was one of the hardest hit by the Dana. In Cuba, the government remains vigilant after the 6.6 and 6.7 earthquakes that shook the southern coast of the island and other Caribbean nations on November 10th. Cuban authorities reported no fatalities, but at least 7 people were injured, as well as damage to houses and streets. Likewise, the National Seismological Service said that about 885 aftershocks and more than 46 reports of perceptible tremors were registered in the province of Granma. So far, seismic activity continues to be monitored to identify any other similar phenomenon. In Santiago de Cuba, work and school activities were resumed as normal after the authorities confirmed safety conditions. The Jamaica Meteorological Service is on alert Tuesday for a tropical wave, which due to conditions in the Caribbean Sea could develop into a tropical cyclone. The tropical wave is slow-moving and is influencing Hispaniola, so it could be in Jamaica by Tuesday or Wednesday. According to the entity, the projections are for cloudy conditions with periods of showers and thunderstorms, which could be strong at times to affect especially the south and northwest of the country through Wednesday night. The tropical wave could merge with a broad area of low pressure across the southwestern Caribbean Sea, giving it a 50% chance of becoming a tropical cyclone in the next 7 days. In Colombia, the Disaster Risk Management Unit sent the first 10,000 food kits to the department of Chocó, which was recently hit by heavy rains and severe flooding. The entity activated operational tasks including the Army, Police, Navy, Aerospace Force, Civil Defense, firefighters and Red Cross to assess the emergency in that territory. Furthermore, the government, with resources from the Collective Investment Fund, allocated some $625,000 to recover from the damages caused by the rainy season in the communities of Chocó. According to official data, 25 of the 31 municipalities in this department have suffered some type of damage, and at present, more than 30,000 families have been affected. Colombian authorities reported this November 11th that the San Jose Mulatos volcano erupted, located in the department of Antioquia, in the northwest of the country. The San Jose Mulatos volcano emitted a flare of fire at approximately 1700 hours local time, which triggered a cloud of smoke in the area. The technical director of the Colombian Geological Service, John Macario, reported that these volcanoes have very small and restricted eruptions. The Secretary General of San Pedro de Uraba, Alexander Gonzalez, reported that the expulsion of volcanic material fell toward the sides of the municipalities of Necoclí. The governor of Antioquia, Andrés Julián Rendón, indicated that the Department of Risk Management was already aware of the emergency. And we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.